I'm San Wang, Director of Grants for the Cultural Equity Grants Program at the San Francisco Arts Commission, and I'm thrilled to be talking to Sean Dorsey, choreographer, who's been commissioned by our grants program. Hi, Sean.
Hi, San.
Thank you so much for letting us see your rehearsal. Tell us a little bit about your dance company and Fresh Meat Productions.
I am the artistic director of Sean Dorsey Dance, which is my dance company, and I create dance theater that incorporates modern dance as well as text and storytelling to explore transgender and queer themes, but in a way that I hope is really universal and human.
So that's the dance company, and also Fresh Meat Productions brings together other artists from various communities. Can you talk a little bit about Fresh Meat?
Fresh Meat Productions is the first organization of our kind in the nation. We create, present, and tour year-round transgender and queer arts programs. So we have an outrageously popular festival of transgender and queer performance. That's the Fresh Meat Festival each June. We have the resident dance company, which is my dance company, Sean Dorsey Dance. We have Fresh Meat in the Gallery, which is an exhibitions program. We feature international and national arts exhibits featuring transgender visual artists, and we also have a media arts program. So, for example, we co-present Tranny Fest, which is an annual transgender film festival.
There was a beautiful quote that I read that you said, "I came to peace as I realized that my art was my activism." Can you talk about how you came to this realization, and has dance always been your art form?
My identity, I think, through my adolescence and as a young adult was actually much more as an activist. So it was when I was doing grad school, I was in a community economic development program that I opened my journal one day and came to see that literally every, clipping I had clipped out and images I had collected and drawn were all of the body in motion and of dance. And I struggled at the time with the idea of even giving part of myself over to living as a working artist, because I felt that it felt really selfish to be an artist. My understanding of my best contribution to my community was through traditional activism, through community leadership, lobbying, community organizing, and so on. It was a many-year process, but I came to see that my, I think, most effective contribution as an activist to my community is actually through dance and dance theater.
You've come out as the first out transgender choreographer in the country, and yet you're also a choreographer. How do you reconcile that tension?
So certainly I am transgender, I go through the world as transgender, and that impacts my daily, hourly experience as a human being. But I'm a working artist and have devoted my life to being a working artist and being a leader in my community through Fresh Meat. And I think that what I'm really proud of in my work and my audiences is that my audiences are an amazing mix of transgender people and queer people and totally mainstream straight dance lovers and theater lovers. So that is a balance that I really care about and feel really protective of and careful with, that all my work addresses trans experience in some way, certainly, but I'm always doing that with an eye to and wanting a lens into really universal human questions. I want to create work that everyone can relate to.
So you're remounting Uncovered, the diary project, and this is a piece that really speaks to the activism and the art. So tell us about Uncovered.
So Uncovered, the diary project is an evening of dances that incorporate theater and storytelling and also archival material to reveal and talk about the lives and life stories of transgender and queer people that history has tried to erase. I wanted to look at questions of collective memory and the gatekeepers of history, and I used the diary as a lens or a doorway into those questions. So the show actually incorporates real text from the real-life diaries of some transgender and queer people.
A diary is such an intimate record, and it's a secret, that's not usually shared with other people. Can you talk about how you brought something that's so intimate, so secret, to the stage?
In the case of Lou Sullivan, whose lifelong diaries I incorporate in the suite of dances Lou, how do I embody somebody who passed on in 1991 without literally recreating him? Lou was an enormously pioneering female-to-male transgender activist and writer, community leader. He transitioned at a time that was very early for our community and didn't see himself reflected anywhere in organizations. There was no above-ground transgender community really at the time. So he was really, really active in early transgender community formation. So when he knew he was dying, he wanted to make sure he bequeathed record of his life. So he left 30 years of his journals. There's obviously a lot of tragedy in Lou's story. I didn't want to make art from a victim place or from that stuck place. It's important to show that Lou was such a powerhouse. He was an incredibly empowered, powerful, embodied leader, and actually had a lot of peace with his illness and passing, knowing that he was leaving on a legacy and a record for other people.
Well, in the piece, you use so many different elements. You use humor, and you use dance, music, narrative, storytelling. How do you bring together the dance, the theater, the music, and the poetry?
The first part of my process actually is with language. So before I walk into the studio, I've spent anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to a year working on the sound score. And only once I have a complete draft of the sound score do I come into the studio. And I may have a lot of ideas about vocabulary or imagery or lighting or costumes at that point, but I don't generate any movement physically with my company until I actually have a complete draft of the sound score, because it's very, my work is very driven by the language and narrative, and the cadence of language and inflection and tone informs the movement as much as the music does. So it's really important for me to have that whole context there to support the movement.
I think one of the things that I love about the Fresh Meat Festival is that it's actually a forum for all of these heroes. It's launched careers and it's launched tours. And so a lot of the work actually has gone to other cities and states. And what has been the reception of those works and those artists in other places?
Yeah, that's something that I'm so proud of, that I could not have anticipated, that there are many artists whose careers really were launched at the Fresh Meat Festival, who then got seen by presenters or folks who came in from out of town to the festival. And a lot of artists will kind of harken back and say, that was where I got seen, or that was the first time I was commissioned or was invested in. You know, we work really hard to fundraise, to pay artists well. We now commission artists, to give artists kind of a living wage so that they can have the time and space to create the work over a period of months.
Great, thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, thank you. And now we will modern dance together. How about a clip of us?
Gestural movement.
Gestural movement.